have you here today. My name is Lorraine Charles. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Migration Summit and the Executive Director of NAMO. I'm really excited for the session today. The Migration Summit 2023, organized by MIT React, NAMO, Karam Foundation, is a month-long global convening designed to build bridges between diverse communities of displaced learners, universities, companies, social enterprises, policymakers, employers, and governments around key challenges and opportunities for refugee and migrant communities. This year, we're exploring the theme, co-creating pathways for learning, livelihood, and dignity. Today, I'm really excited to have Thaki here, and I can say that I was there from the beginning of Thaki. Rodin is a dear friend of mine from the Abu Dhabi days, and I'm happy to see so many people from Beirut and from Abu Dhabi here in the session. So I'd like to introduce Kaitlin, who's a program manager of Thaki. Kaitlin, over to you, and welcome everyone. And Ramadan Kareem.
Thank you so much, Lorraine, and everybody. Honestly, I'm really, really happy to be here today, and I have the great pleasure of hosting your session. I'll be your, let's say, main speaker, but I'll be joined by many voices and supporters and faces from the Thaki family. So thank you in advance to everybody for being here. I really feel touched to see friends and supporters from near and far around the globe spending some time to be with us today to hear about the work that we do. So thank you again and again. Camila, if you could go over to our agenda. Perfect, thank you. So for those of you that were thinking that this was going to be a 2-hour engagement today, that is not my intention. We have a 2-hour time slot, but my aim is for us to spend about 20 minutes on these 3 topics. First, we'll be starting with a presentation on Thaki and the TDT. From there, we'll be moving into storytelling. So we'll hear the voices and see the faces of some of the teachers that work with Thaki, specifically Esam and Rayan. We're going to hear from them about their experience teaching with Thaki and using the teacher digital toolkits. And then finally, we're going to be doing a workshop. And that is where we're going to all bring in our memorable learning experiences. So that's the point, the third point, the workshop, where I'm really counting on you to engage as much as you can. But please don't plan on resting on your laurels the whole time up until then, because definitely we have lots of points for engagement and interaction. And actually, throughout today's session, I'm going to be doing some different sort of engagement methods, different strategies that model for you some of the approaches that we bring out in the Teacher Digital Toolkit, which we'll tell you more about shortly. We could go to the next slide. We'll start with our presentation. So we'll start with Thaki. Who is Thaki? Why are we here? And then we'll go on to the Teacher Digital Toolkit. And for this section on who is Thaki, how does it work, I'm going to hand over to the best person to describe that to you, which is the founder and CEO of Thaki. This is Rodina Abdo. I think she's joining us today from Vienna, but normally she's based everywhere else and anywhere else in the world. Today you can find her there. But thank you, Rodina, for introducing Thaki.
Thank you, Kate, so much. And thank you also to the whole Migration Summit team, Camilla, Lorraine, wonderful to be here and for hosting the second time this really wonderful event to the summit to talk about these issues about migration and the impacts of migration. And in fact, the genesis of Thaki, the birth of Thaki, was very much born because of the Syrian refugee crisis. So Thaki is now 8 years old. And it started with just a huge sadness around what was happening with millions of Syrian refugees at the time who were displaced and totally missing out on their education. And there was the huge fear of having a lost generation. And living in, at the time I was living in an affluent country where there are lots of resources and digital tools and basically laptops. And the idea came, well, how can we leverage these tools that are no longer needed by corporations and institutions and get them to good use and get them to the resources with probably excellent resources to the children who are missing out. So that's how it started. It was an idea, and taking leveraging resources, which in our case are laptops from corporations and institutions that no longer need them, but they should not be go to waste. They still have a lifetime, a second life of high impact. So what we do is we collect these laptops, predominantly laptops, but other digital tools as well, and we repurpose them with content. Basically, we preload them. And the original idea was to get internet to be accessible in the remote areas where we work, but that turned out to be a bigger problem for us, a bigger problem than us to resolve. And so that's what led to us having partnerships and curating content from content experts that are preloaded on the laptops. And we really focus on content that's engaging and motivating and exciting for the learner. And then we have partnerships on the ground who are in organizations that are working directly with the displaced, forcibly displaced children and the vulnerable children. Our biggest presence is in Lebanon, and I see at least a couple of partners of ours, Suha and Aysam from Jusur and SSSE, who we'll be hearing from, I think, later on. And equipping them with the digital tools. And as we will be getting to with Kate's presentation, and the focus of this presentation is the skills to equip the teachers. So we're putting these wonderful tools in front of the children, but we also need to enable the teachers with the training and the right resources. So in brief, I just don't want to take too much on this, but the focus of this is really that final point of with the teachers and how to get them equipped and trained. And we've been giving a lot of effort to that in the last couple of years, and I'll hand you back in the very good hands of Kate, and looking forward to this exciting workshop. Kate, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rodena. I have to say Rodena is always amazingly humble about the work that we've done and what we've achieved. If you can go to the next slide, Camila, we can see it's actually really, really impactful what Thaki does. So far, there's been over 28,000 students and teachers who have learned on Thaki laptops, and that's something remarkable, considering we're leveraging the circular economy to be able to source these resources, not spending on new things, not creating new things, but using what's already available. And I have some other figures on the next slide that are also, I think, quite impactful. So far, over 4,000 devices have been distributed to 132 organizations. We have $4,000 of educational value per laptop. That's including the hardware and the software that is included on the laptop. And if we refer back to that figure of 28,000 and think about the number of devices and the value, that's over $11 million of educational value distributed in software and hardware over the past few years. And that's really remarkable. We're really proud of that. And last, I want to note that each device, each laptop has over 1,300 educational tools and resources for students. And that's students from young to old. Teachers can use it, family members can use it. It's really, really an accessible tool that we're quite proud of. So moving on from here, that's a little bit of the background of Thaki. And then Thaki as an organization, we've created what we call the Teacher Digital Toolkit. I get a little stumbly on that sometimes, so I say TDT quite often. And in brief, I just want to give you a couple highlights about what is the TDT, and then I'll take you a little bit through the journey of how we created it, who was involved, and where it is today. So in short, the TDT is a learning platform for teacher professional development. We feel that when teachers learn and grow and develop their skills, their students also learn and grow and develop their skills as well, both through exposure and through new activities and interactions. Next, the TDT is a free and on-demand, free, on-demand, and downloadable content. That was really, really critical for us to provide to the populations that we serve, because teachers, no matter where they are in the world, are low on time, they're low on resources, they are always looking for something new to support their teaching, and that's anywhere. And then if you bring that down into populations that are either themselves migrants or serve migrants, it becomes even more and more demanding, their day-to-day life. So having these things available offline, on demand is really, really important. The next point about the TDT is that it's bilingual. And this is an important part that I want to come back to, but it's bilingual in Arabic and English. We felt that was really, really important for those that we work with to be able to learn in the most comfortable language for them. Any one of us who has the experience of living somewhere else or learning somewhere else or even just traveling, there's that huge discomfort, that challenging feeling when you're confronted with a different language. And of course, the amount of input, the amount that you can take away is limited if it's not your main language. So we really wanted to serve that Arabic speaking market. Another important thing about the TDT is that it has off-the-shelf resources. I was a former teacher myself in the US for a number of years, and I can tell you nothing gave me greater joy than to find, obviously, my students' achievements and growth, and secondly, finding a resource that was really just spot on what I needed, and I didn't have to do a whole lot to change it. The resources that are off the shelf are, of course, editable for teachers who want to adapt, who have different levels of students in their classroom. Quite often, we would find classrooms might be arranged grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, but the students in those classrooms don't always align either with age or with their numbers of years of experience in education. So to have resources that are available and editable, and actually we've made an attempt to create these resources also linked to the core curriculum, what teachers have to teach, because as a teacher, that's what you're there to do. You need to get through certain content. But also we really wanted to bring in what research shows, and this is across the board from OECD countries, high income countries to low income countries, everywhere in between. But what teachers really, really need is support with ICT and digital literacy. And they also really need support on those sort of future focused skills. That's creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, things like this. So all of the resources embed those. And as well, we also wanted to make links to the SDGs. We'll talk more about those later, but those are the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And our resources incorporate all of those. And last thing I'll say about the Teacher Digital Toolkit at like this high level is that it was importantly built with and by teachers from the context. I am American, I grew up in the US, so I have that expertise to draw on, and I can bring some sort of international perspective. But apart from me, the project team was all based in the region. So we have Miriam and a colleague, Abir, and many others actually in Lebanon. We have Majd, our tech expert, we'll hear from him later today. He's based in Syria. We had volunteers from Saudi Arabia. We had a project team in Jordan. And Shenyu, who I see has joined us today, she and I are the, let's say, those that don't come from the context, but we both lived in the context. So Shenyu is based in the UAE. She's graduating soon. If anyone wants to hire somebody, I could really recommend her. And I've also lived in Lebanon for a number of years. So we have that familiarity, but it is truly so important to have the product created with and those with and by those who are going to be interacting with it. So from here, Camilla, if you can, we're going to try something that we hope works to follow up on what we've just said about the needs of teachers, what we've observed and what we've created. Camilla's going to start with a poll and see what you think, what you might already know about existing resources for our population that we serve. So I'll read the first question out for everybody. The first one is, according to the Internet World Stats, Arabic ranks where in the number of internet users by language? Is it the 4th most popular, let's say, 7th most, or 15th most popular language user on the internet? I think you can just...
Yeah, and so I guess everyone can see the poll, right? Yeah, there we go. So
yeah, you can click. And then that second question, according to research by W3 Tech, what percent of the top 10 million websites on the web use Arabic? Again, that's a figures question. 5%, 1.5%, or 0.7%.
Okay, so we've got 13 responses, so let's give some more seconds, but I see everyone responding quite quickly to it.
Before you end it, Camila, if you could just leave it up so I can refer to the votes as I'm giving some further detail, that'll be great.
Yeah, but do you see the quantity of votes per each one? Yeah. Okay.
Yep, I do. So, with no further ado, I will reveal, the answers. So, Arabic ranks where in the number of internet users by language? 4th, 7th, or 15th? Pretty evenly split between 4th and 7th, and actually the correct answer is 4th. So the topmost, let's say the largest language group, is English, followed by Chinese, followed by Spanish, and then there's Arabic. And what I found interestingly, after Arabic, 5th is Indonesian, after that is Portuguese, then we have French and Japanese, which really surprised me, those figures. Then keeping that in mind that that's the 4th largest language group of users on the internet, let's look at question 2. According to research from W3 Tech, what percentage of the top 10 million websites on the web use Arabic? The largest vote here was for 1.5, and then several of you said 0.7, and 5% coming in last place. In fact, the answer is 0.7%. So less than 1% of the top websites on the web use Arabic or have Arabic as a content. So maybe not surprisingly, the top language is English. Then we had Russian, Spanish. I was shocked by the 4th one is Dutch. I live in the Netherlands and I can barely come up with a few words in Dutch. So I'm really surprised that we have this many websites in Dutch. Then there's Chinese and then comes Arabic, among others in between. So thank you for that poll, Camila. We can go back to our presentation when you're ready. And that leads me on sort of to my next point. So why did you do this? There are so many learning platforms out there, especially now, a couple years on from COVID. We're just inundated with more resources, more tools. Why make another platform when so many already exist? And that poll sort of led me into this point, is there's a need for it. There's a large lack in provision of Arabic-centric content and Arabic-serving content for users. And that's standard user, just looking at a user, let alone before we get into thinking about paywalls or any other barriers that might be specific to migrants or to migrant-serving populations. So we already understood that there's a need there based on provision. And secondly, we found in our work at Thaki that there is a large variability in uptake from teachers and school leaders. And really, if you have 1 or 2 people on staff, whether it's a teacher or a school leader, that are really champions and advocates of ICT, then that can trickle through. But if there isn't a sort of clear leader, isn't there somebody there taking you by the hand, really bringing you on, showing you what to do, there can be a delay, let's say a hesitation. And I admit to that too in my own life. If I don't know how to do something, I quite often avoid doing it. So we found that we have some teachers, I'm thinking of one specifically, a gentleman called Mohammed Sari. He is just such an advocate and champion. He's a wonderful man, and he really, really stands out in my mind of somebody who really took on Thaki and really grew it in his school with his community. But not every teacher is like that. And that's not at all to devalue those other teachers. Those other teachers themselves have other passions, other interests. ICT isn't the thing for them. And quite frankly, as a teacher, you're super busy. You have maybe 40 or 50 students, sometimes in a classroom, and often of the context that we serve. And there's so many things, often so many initiatives, so many things you need to attend to, whether it's parents, students, or your own life. It can be hard to take on something new. So those were already the sort of baseline, always sort of what we saw in the need for creating this platform. And then if we can go to the next slide, Camila, we had this weird sort of global event that happened a couple years ago. Then COVID happened. And when COVID happened and everyone started to understand, okay, this isn't going to last for a week, we better start changing some things, we better start taking some steps. That's when we really felt this huge impetus, this huge push to move forward with this plan for creating a platform for teachers to support them, to help them with their learning. So when COVID happened, everyone sort of, okay, what do we do? We stopped and we took a few steps. First one was a landscape scan, let's call it a landscape map. One of our tenets at Thaki is to not repeat others' work, not do what's already out there. We complement and support one another. So we did a big investigation, and let's say, into our partners, into the context. Suha from Jusor is here. We have other partners, Lal come to mind, Lebanese Alternative Learning. We contacted them, found out what they were doing, how they were doing it, and helped us to identify where's the need that we could fill, what's a need that we could serve. Immediately as well, we started doing urgent content production. I'll come back to this, but we started putting things out there as soon as we could because schools shut all of a sudden and what to do. And then thirdly, we were constantly referencing international frameworks, global standards. We were referring to all the research we could find, all the experts we could find from INEE, UNICEF, global standards for digital intelligence, much, much more to sort of frame and contextualize what we were going to start doing. Then from here, we always do stakeholder engagement, but during COVID, that became even more and more important. We started to realize what the needs were on the ground, because even if UNICEF tells us this is the best thing to do, or some schools in the US or the UK recommend asynchronous this or Zoom breakout rooms that, maybe it wasn't appropriate for the context that we serve. And that's really what we found. We found that both teachers and students had particularly challenging situations at the time. They had limited electricity, limited internet, of course being related, those two of those. Oftentimes they didn't have a laptop at home. Maybe their device was a phone. And often a phone was shared by family members, either the husband or the wife, and then sharing it with the children. And often it wasn't just one or two children, it was large families, all needing to share the same device, to use that as their sort of lifeline to the outside world when we were all shut in at home. And then often just the dynamics in the household, needing to take care as a parent for your children, or if you're a child, needing to care for your siblings, perhaps needing to supplement lost income, things like this. We have two pictures here. We have a picture of teachers from Malak, that's a school in the north, in Akkar. We worked with them to support the school to facilitate the teachers signing out Thaki laptops. Instead of having them sit during COVID locked in computer labs, we had them sign out to teachers for their planning and instructional purposes. And another organization, the picture of the child on the right is from Tira Amal, which is in Tripoli. They created a program because they're very embedded in their community. They're very local. Everybody that lives there is quite close to everybody that goes to school lives quite close. So the students were able to loan out devices and do learning from home. So that's the other picture you see there, is a child learning from home. So that was sort of the impetus, the situation we found ourselves in COVID. It was about the landscape. It was about understanding what we should do and how we can do it properly in that context. So now if we can go on. Again, I referenced we needed it to be both fitting what was available, recommended according to best practice, and possible. So we got in this sort of urgent content production mode. I laugh a little bit when I think back to this time period, my colleague Miriam and I sitting on our phones, sitting on our laptops, making these videos. What we did was sort of went for the low-hanging fruit. We went for things that were immediately needed, immediately applicable for teachers and learners. And we just have a really quick 1-minute video clip of one of the videos that we made at that time. And all the videos are just really simple tech tricks, but they were not things that we easily found and easily believed that our populations already knew of. So we made these videos, we sent them out on WhatsApp, we broadcasted them, we put them on social media, and yeah, that's how we got started. So we could see the video real quick.
مرحبا، معكم مريم من جمعية ذكي. بهيدا الفيديو بدي فرجيكم كيف فينا نعمل ترجمة لأي موقع إلكتروني أو مقطع نحن بدنا إياه. منروح على جوجل كروم.
So if you don't speak Arabic, just bear with us.
على السيتنجز. ندور على الاكستنشنز نكبس عليها. كمان هون بنكبس على الاكستنشنز على المنيو. منروح لتحت Open Chrome Web Store نكبس عليها. على السيرش بنكتب Google Translate. Enter. رح تجينا هيدي. بنكبس على Add to Chrome على الزرقاء. Add extensions.
The video goes on.
وصار هلا في زيادة ايكون رمز نزيد عنها.
Anyway, I was just saying little quick simple videos, how to make a screen recording on a laptop, how to do it on your phone, and how to make a little video, send it to your students, how to tell your students how to put subtitles on YouTube videos, or how to compress a video, how to put captions on. Just really simple little tech tricks that can make the teaching and learning experience quite a bit more facilitated at that time. So that was really sort of the baby first material that we created for the Teacher Digital Toolkit. And then we started getting more deeply into content production. And that's when we had the opportunity to work with some teachers in Jordan. So if we go to the next slide, Camila, I'll see if my colleague Miriam can speak with us out loud. If not, we have an audio file to hear about her experience, our experience working with teachers both in Lebanon and in Jordan to involve them and co-design, co-collaborate on this project. Miriam, is now a good time for you, or shall we play the audio? She has a bad connection. Okay, we'll play the audio. If you could hit that little link, that little icon. Thanks.
Hi Kate, hello everyone. So today I'm excited to share with you the story of how we overcame the challenges of COVID-19 to create our Teacher Digital Toolkit to meet the needs of the teachers. As you may know, our Teacher Digital Toolkit was created to support teachers in Lebanon. However, when COVID-19 hit, we quickly realized that we needed to change our approach to reach teachers in new ways. That's when we had the opportunity to work with teachers in Jordan through the Catalyst project, who provided valuable feedback and helped us co-create the program to meet their needs. Through this collaboration, we made several changes to the Teacher Digital Toolkit. We made the modules shorter to make them more accessible. We focused on video content to make learning more engaging. We used Fusha instead of Lebanese dialect to reach more Arabic speakers geographically. And we took into consideration the different learning styles when designing the modules by including videos, text, and practical work on each topic so that teachers could learn in a way that is meaningful for them. We provided also modification for mobile learning. These changes were made possible by the feedback we received from the teachers. We are proud of the Teacher Digital Toolkit and the impact it has had on teachers in Lebanon, Jordan, and beyond. We believe that by working together and adapting to new challenges, we can continue to make a difference in the lives of educators and their students. Thank you so much.
Super nice. Thank you, Mariam, for being here and for sending this ahead of time so we could make sure that we could hear your important additions. So teachers have been involved from the very beginning, and those are some ways that we changed the Teacher Digital Toolkit based on their feedback. If we go to the next slide, we'll hear from another colleague of ours. He's not able to join us as well. This is our IT guru. We call him Magic Majd because when we ask for something to happen, he makes it happen somehow. I can't tell you how many times I listened to his voice. I wrote the notes down to make sure I understood because so much of what he does, I don't understand, but I'm really glad that he does. So I asked Majd to tell us a little bit about the building, the technical side of things.
We built the Teacher Digital Toolkit using the following technologies. The backend was built using PHP, Laravel framework with MySQL database as a relational database. The front end was built with React.js. Both of the back end and front end are hosted on our SiteGround server.
Wonderful. So those things make sense to Mesh and maybe some other people. To some of us, they don't quite make so much sense. But Mesh really works as magic and built the platform. I realized the next slide is where we'll do a demo of the platform. We've told you so much about the history of it, what went into it. I'd love to show it to you. Camila, I realized that when you click that link, you don't have an account, but I have an account. So maybe what can happen is I can share my screen for this portion of the session, and then we'll switch back over to you. Does that sound okay?
Perfect.
Okay. Let's do it. We're going to go here and share. Thank you for your patience, everybody. All right. So our demo, I'll click our link here and go straight to the TDT. Is it coming up on everyone's screens?
Yeah.
Surely?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Let's see. It's taking a little bit of time to load. I think my computer is a bit overwhelmed with all that's happening at the moment. But here's a view of the dashboard of what you see when you're logged into the Teacher Digital Toolkit. I'm going to be showing it to you in English because that is what I can read and speak, and I think that's accessible for most of us joining today. But there is, of course, the feature to change everything into Arabic if that's your preferred learning language. So to show you briefly about what you see when you land on the Teacher Digital Toolkit, we have over here some filters that can help you get to the content that you need straight away. We have different categories. Let's say instructional practice is around how you're teaching. Tools and skills are, as the name suggests, tools and skills. Technology and coding, and then the SDGs, again, are the Sustainable Development Goals. We found that to be really important content that we want infused into what we do. It's so important for everyone to know about them, and especially for young people who have really so much power to impact and change them in the future. Another way you can search here is by looking at all of the resources or just courses, lesson plans, or videos. So you can scroll through at the top to see some of our most popular content. And what I want to point out is that some of the content is specific, to programs on Thaki laptops, but a lot of it is general content knowledge that anybody, any educator would be benefiting from. And on that point of any educator, right now we're doing a coaching and mentorship program with teachers from sponsored by Their World. We're doing that with teachers from Lebanon. We have some teachers that are totally new in their first year. They need really help with the basics, so writing well-developed lesson plans. And then I have a teacher who I'm humbled to work with. He has 17 years of experience. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what can I tell you? You know so much. But I'm really happy to guide this person on trying some new strategies, some new methods, and some of this content here is really aligned to what, again, all the research tells us children need more and more in the future, are these skills around critical thinking, collaboration, communication, etc. So you scroll down, you see we have content on Scratch, the SDGs, again, off-the-shelf lesson plans and resources to support teachers, videos as well for multiple learning modalities. So I'm going to check my notes if there's anything else. That's really what I wanted to show you from here. But again, remind you that the content is downloadable, it's accessible, it's free, and it can help teachers at any stage in their professional development, because again, when they are equipped, their students become equipped for the future. So from here, I will stop sharing and I'll go back over to Camila, ask her to share, and move into the second part of today's session, which is storytelling. Thank you very much. So for the storytelling part of our session, we're going to hear from teacher Aysam and teacher Rayan. And I think Aysam is with us today. We're really happy you could join us. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for helping us to prepare for this presentation. We're going to hear about their experiences, both with teaching with Thaki, with using the Teacher Digital Toolkit, and also just in general about teaching and learning and professional development. So if we go to the next slide, we have Aysam. Aysam had been studying engineering in Syria before he moved to Lebanon, where he could no longer continue with his studies. So at that point, he was able to access employment, teaching. He is teaching Arabic and STEAM. We'll hear more about his experience teaching. The school that he teaches at serves primarily Syrian students, and the curriculum is in preparation to prepare them for entering into Lebanese public schools after they finish at his school. So I have a couple questions on the screen here today, and I hope you'll indulge me, because this is actually one of the, let's say, methods or strategies that we encourage teachers to do in our classrooms. When they're using technology, it's not just valuable just to use technology. It's valuable when there's a purpose and there's a guidance and there's a framework for it. So we're going to hear a video interview between Aysam and Rudaina, and throughout the video interview, I'd like you to listen for these three things. You can just pop them in the chat. The first one is about one way the TDT has supported Aysam in teaching. The second one is one idea that Aysam shares for improving the TDT. And then the third one would be, what would Aysam hope for his students? And I have a little prompt, how to support, how to improve, and how to hope. Not how to hope, what to hope. That will be on the next slide when you see the video. Okay?
Please بس تعرف حالك ومن أي مدرسة وشو بتعلم. If you could
أكيد.
please introduce yourself.
أكيد أنا عصام العموري أنا.
So Mr. Aysam teaches Arabic and STEAM. قديش صار لك? How long have you been teaching? قديش صار لك عم بتعلم؟
هلا تعلمت تقريبا 4 سنوات.
مع ال SSSE, 4 years with SSSE. I would very much بدي ask you about the Teacher Digital Toolkit. بدي أسألك عن ال Teacher Digital Toolkit. إذا فيك تحكي عنها شوي please, وإذا استخدمتها وكيف استعملتها إذا ممكن.
هي لأن إحنا تعرفنا عليها تقريبا.
So Mr. Aysam has been using the Teacher Digital Toolkit. Was onboarded a couple of months ago by Thaki team member Mariam, and he's been using it to learn Scratch and to get into various subjects, and finding it extremely helpful and useful. So using Scratch in order to build up the knowledge to use robotics, because they have robotics lab in the school. هلا انت بتدخل بتستعمل من اللغه العربيه بتهيألي مش من اللغه الانجليزيه مش هيك؟
العربيه
Mr. Aysam is using both from the Arab, mostly from the Arabic, but sometimes also getting to the Teacher Digital Toolkit in English. وكيف عم بتلاقي كيف تلاقي انه تجربه وتلاقي السبجكتس اللي موجودين بهال Teacher Digital Toolkit كيف عم بتلاقيهم؟
كثير كانوا منوعين وكثير حلوين.
That using the content is very easy to navigate, and the different subjects, and using the videos has been very helpful on the technology, Arabic as well, and the SDGs in particular as well, because they're teaching around the sustainable development goals, and the resources are proving to be useful. شو لقيت إنه في فرق بالتعلم تبعك ومع التلاميذ؟ عم بتشوف في فرق? Is there an impact? Are you seeing a difference with your teaching and how the students respond to your teaching وأنت عم تستعمل ها Teacher Digital Toolkit?
هلا صراحة لقيت أول شيء إنه
in terms of using it and preparing for the lessons for the classrooms, he's finding the resources very helpful in guiding him and getting prepared for teaching, and in again talking about the SDGs, wanting to apply those and finding it easy and to apply these resources in the classroom. مع كل هالاشياء اللي عم بتصير كيف بتلاقي انه TDT Thaki Teacher Development Toolkit كيف عم بتساعد عم بتقوي كيف
الدورات
the TDT is really helping him to bring all of these things together, apply them in the classroom, and they do have large classrooms, so all of the classroom management and subjects is really helping integrate all of these various resources and tools. وقت تكون عم بتجهز حالك لتعلم كيف بتجهز حالك؟ كيف بتحضر امورك عشان تدخل على الصف قبل وبعد ما بلشت تستخدم Teacher Digital Toolkit؟
هلا
Before using the Teacher Digital Toolkit, he would prepare by resources that were available online or through his teaching. But the TDT has really helped him with just ready-made resources to navigate the classroom, to get into different subjects, and to see the various ways of teaching that are available and made available. So it has been helpful. شو في اشياء اللي بتحب تتمنى انه يكونوا يزادوا على TDT? It would be great to have more resources in Arabic and how to teach Arabic. There's fantastic resources on preparing for how to do the classroom setting and preparing, and maths and English and other subjects, but he'd like to see more on Arabic. And an idea is to have, when teachers are preparing their own lesson plans, that could be added to the TDT as well. So this is a great suggestion that Mr. Isam is adding. شكرا، ممتاز كتير هذا. وشو بتتأمل للأولاد وللمعلمين اللي بتعلمون؟ His hopes and aspirations for the children is that they have a much better and more hopeful and promising future than what they're encountering now. It's very difficult circumstances and for what everybody's going through. شكرا كتير لك أستاذ عصام، ممنونة. Thank you so much, Mr. Isam.
وشكرا لك ربين على المقابلة الحلوة.
Great, thank you so much. I popped the questions into the chat because I realized you wouldn't be able to see them while we were reviewing the video. Feel free to pop it in the chat or to unmute yourself and tell us, did you catch any of the ways that Isam mentions the Teacher Digital Toolkit supported him in his teaching? I see Angela mentioning about bringing in the SDGs. Yes, definitely. That is something that he mentioned helps support his teaching, having content on the SDGs and readily available resources. Thank you, Shenyu, for adding that in. As I said, as a teacher, you're always super happy to find something that you can use straight away. The second question, what's an idea that Isam shares for improving the TDT? What else could we do to make it better, according to Isam? More Arabic. Yes, thank you, Alexis. That is indeed it. More, indeed. And that is actually one of our hopes and plans for this year and beyond, to be able to expand it more and more. But yes, he does mention wanting to have more resources for teaching Arabic specifically. And then lastly, Isam's hopes and aspirations for his students. Indeed. I see another one from Alexis and others mentioning having better learning conditions, better opportunities, and a better future. I think teachers all over the world would share in that they want their students' lives to be as good as they can be. And it's really nice to hear that from Isam. Thank you so much. Sam, I don't know if it's a convenient time for you to stay on, to talk, to answer any questions, but we really thank you for being here with us today. We can move on from here to hear from another teacher. After the video, we have some voice notes from a teacher called Rayan. She is a Lebanese teacher teaching in a brand new school, very small school that serves primarily Lebanese students. She wasn't able to join us today because she's teaching, as many teachers are always very busy. So I asked her a few questions and she gave us a few answers in voice notes. Just about her views and experiences around teacher professional development. So my first one was, where do you normally go to find teaching resources?
We learn from our colleagues through peer-to-peer methods. We get ideas from social media like Instagram, like Twitter, and from the experts we have the chance to meet and the articles they post.
So it sounds pretty typical, actually, of my own experiences and many of us. So moving on from here, what kind of professional development is available for Rayan?
Since we are lifetime learners, we always need something new to know. We help each other a lot through classroom observations, leading by example. We talk every day, we share our experiences and the ideas we apply in class. We also have the chance to get trainings, attend educational meetings and conferences. For example, La Troisième Biennale de l'Éducation Nouvelle that took place in Belgium in November 2022.
So Ryan has really actually robust opportunities for professional development, and she has again a really small new school, so they have a really great dynamic and working relationship between the teachers, and professional development is something that she feels quite comfortable and proud of. Moving from here, who should be responsible for a teacher's professional development? I wanted to know, is it for the teacher or for the school or whom?
The teacher's professional development is a mutual responsibility for the school and the teacher as well, because self-actualization is a human need. So it's our responsibility as teachers. We always need to learn. There is always something new we have to know about. So we need to do our research and to attend trainings. And for the school, if it needs to be up to date and to improve the teaching quality, training is one of the essential keys.
Yep, I love that. It is. It's each one of us, the school, we work together, support one another, and build and connect. So moving to number 4, what kind of support is needed for teachers to be successful?
To be successful, we need to be motivated. Of course, there is this passion and love for teaching and helping others and coaching. These are the key factors to succeed, because we are humans dealing with humans, we are not machines. But also there are many kinds of support we need. We need the training, the resources, the materials. We need also the psychological support, being heard and supported, and to belong to the institution we work in. We need the financial support. It's very important. And we need the flexibility in the working hours, in the schedules, in the classroom management. All of these are essential keys to succeed and be efficient.
I like how Ryan said it's not just about the practical stuff, but it's also about the emotional side too. Feeling like you belong somewhere, that you have a community, feeling that you're supported with your, psychological, your mental health, your emotional health is so important. Teacher wellness and wellness in general is something that we're hearing about so much more, and I really like that Ryan brought that in and highlighted that. And if we could go to the next slide, I wanted to hear from you whether it's convenient in the chat, or also feel free to unmute yourselves and let us know as well. But I wondered, what did you find surprising or interesting from what you heard from Essam or Rayan? And how do Essam and Rayan's experiences compare with what you might expect to hear in your home country, or the settings you work in, or even your own experiences, no matter how many years ago they may have been, or your children's experiences, for example, at school? Anything interesting, surprising, and how does it compare? I'm just popping over to the chat now to read. Miriam said it really resonated with her when she said, teachers are not machines. They need training, they need materials, financial support, etc. And Suha from Jusor said very similar to what teachers at their school would say as well. Angela mentioned surprising that Rayan can take place in international events in the context of her work. She mentioned one, I think it was in Belgium. And Camila mentions an important part about the responsibility of both the teacher and the school. It's not just for one or the other, to make sure that the teachers and the students can be successful in the learning process. Thank you for all of you for that. And just a personal anecdote from myself, when I was teaching in the US, I had actually quite similar experiences to what Rayan described. We had seminars, we had group learnings, we had coaching sessions. So it really made me happy to hear that the professional development that she's been experiencing was similar to my own, similar to what you can expect in other parts of the world. And I was happy to hear that. So with no further ado, we'll move into the last part of today's session, which is the workshop. I'm aware I committed to an hour, so we have 5 minutes left, no, 7 minutes left. Please, I want anybody that has to drop off, of course, anybody that can't participate, please feel welcome to stay as long as you can, leave whenever you need to, depending on your time zone. You might have a limited amount of time left for us today. But in the last section, I don't think it would take too long. But what I'd love to do is to use the last bit of today's session to workshop, to learn from one another, and draw on our own memorable learning experiences. Because when I thought, well, gosh, I don't know who's going to turn up to today's session. I don't know where they're from, what they know, where they work. I don't know anything about them. But what I do know is that pretty much everybody that's been here, or that would come here, I should say, has been in education at some point, either as a student or they're involved in education now. That's why they're here in a session today. So we're going to harken back to our memorable learning experiences from our own pasts. So if we could go to the next slide, we're going to try and do this. Again, I say try because we hope that technology works with us. And we're going to try and do this on Google Jamboard. I have a little screenshot of what it looks like, and I'll walk you through it. But again, we're going to be reflecting on what makes learning memorable. So if you can just click the link there that says Jamboard, Camilla, it should open for us in a new tab. I will put the link to this in the chat for everybody right now. But basically, we are going to reflect on memorable learning experiences. I have an option A and an option B for you, so I'll start with option A. To reflect on your memorable learning experiences, when you're ready, you take a sticky note from the toolbar on the side. It's the one sort of under the pointer. You can pick the color that you like for your sticky when it comes up. And then you hit save. It will add a sticky. You can start typing right on it. And when you want to stop, you hit cancel, exactly, so you don't have to do many more. Another way, you can also add a text box to your sticky. If you want to add or change anything, that text box feature is there for you. And then lastly, if you want to do an image, I have an example there of an image as well. You can just click on the image. Really nice. Jamboard has a feature where you can just search Google Images. So let's see if it comes up. If you can click on the image again, I just want to point out one thing. Yeah. So you can go to that fourth sort of heading there, Google Images. I don't expect you all to have an image ready on your desktop or on your phone right now. You can just use the search bar to search. And my memorable experience was a speech competition I did in 8th grade. And when I typed giving a speech, I got lots of like political images. So just a quick tip for you, if you want to put clip art as well, like teacher clip art in the search field, that can help you narrow results down into some more maybe, I don't know, some nice images that are not going to be too controversial, let's say. So that's there for you. Could be an image, just a few words about your memorable learning experiences. If we can go at the top, Camilla, to the second part of the Jamboard. If you go to the very top of the screen, we have page 1, page 2. Very good. One of our colleagues really rightly pointed out to me that, hey, not everybody has really positive, memorable learning experiences. In fact, for some people, think about their learning experience as a bit of a traumatic thing. It doesn't evoke positive feelings. So I wanted to give the option, an alternative for this activity, just to consider a scenario. Instead of your own experience, consider a scenario. We have a description here about a young child who's 10 years old. There's a little bit of information about them both academically and personally. And then your stickies could be about what you would wish for this person in their current educational and personal context. And then on the last page, we're going to be drawing out our sort of themes and takeaways and seeing how we can apply what was memorable and positive for us as learners in our learning experiences and apply that to the TGT. So again, I must give you the link so you can get started with it. Please feel free to share to whatever extent feels comfortable to you, and yeah, enjoy reflecting a little bit. I have some music, Camilla, back on the slide show. If you can go back to that one real quick. Yep, it's that little audio right next to the word Jamboard. So we can have that in the background to inspire us to reflect. Thank you.
Okay, shall I put music again? I see folks are still adding stickies.
Sure, if you don't mind to for maybe 1 more minute or less, and then we'll see if we can draw out some themes and finish up from here. Perfect. Thank you so much, Camila. That's great. We might have overextended ourselves in our hopes for what we could achieve in today's session. So maybe we can just spend a few minutes. If anyone wants to share a little bit more about their memorable learning experience, please feel free to come off mute and give me details if you want. I left 2 cryptic image-only post-its to intrigue you onto what those stories might be, but I'll step back and make space for anybody that wants to share a little bit about what their answer was and why they answered that way.
I'll jump in and say that my own personal experience goes back to when I was a young child, and it's actually not academically related, but more on the empathy and interpersonal relations in class, in a classroom setting. So this relates to this first board here that I wanted to say about the importance of emotions and getting emotional support in the learning journey.
Thank you, Redana. That's really helpful. And yeah, we hear about that more and more and more and more. But I'm afraid it's probably not commonplace yet and not something that we know a whole lot about how it has effects years on from now. But the fact that it's memorable for you and that it's something that stuck with you and shaped you already is evidence enough that it's something important. I see a hand up from Angela. Is that your reaction to somebody else, or that you want to jump in as well?
I was going to jump in, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Thank you for the prompt, because it's so nice to just take a moment and reflect. And mine is on the far right, there's a picture of a newspaper. And so when I was about 16 or 17 at school, my friend and I created a school magazine called The Word. And we would come in early to school every morning. We were lucky enough to have a computer lab, so we sat at the computers and learned how to use design software and wrote teenage stories, things that were interesting to us about homelessness and fox hunting and different issues that were important to us at the time. And it was such a cool experience, creative and interesting. And I can see a lot of the version of me that I was then in the version of me that I am now. And I think that's why it's memorable that my teachers, by allowing us to do that, created a space for us to flourish as our own individual selves. And I'm very grateful that I had that opportunity.
Really nice. I can imagine the cringe and the amusement if you were to find those excerpts years on. Think, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. It's really, really fun to reflect on those things. And ultimately, the word that I wrote down in the themes and takeaways there is creativity. And I heard you use the word design as well, which I saw come up in other stickies, other people mentioning that as a theme for them being able to create and design and really lead their own learning and be less passive and more active. Really
Yeah,
nice.
I was actually going to jump in with that. One of my stickies was about design thinking workshops, and I had the pleasure to also kind of be facilitator of workshops, like after I learned about it, because I was amazed, in just the capability of a tool that allows us in just an hour and a half, a couple of hours, to just like go through an entire and very different and kind of complex also learning tool. And I think what I liked most about this design thinking is that you don't get things done right away, because you first have to empathize, you first have to understand. And I think that's a learning we have to have, and that's a mindset we need to have in everything that we do, before carrying different projects, in really understanding and empathizing, and then applying. And so I think that was really cool. And just also by facilitating different workshops with that methodology, I really see that peer-to-peer learning together. And so I actually would like to see like that type of teaching more often.
Really, really nice that you had that chance to take part, and then also to lead it as well. You learn no better way than to be in charge of it yourself. So that's really, really nice. And I heard you mention as well the social aspect of that, and I'm reading that on some of the other responses as well, whether it's a friend, on the phone, being able to do projects, creativity. These are all really great themes and takeaways for us. And that's what my commitment is now when we're finishing up today's session, is to take away all the great insights you've shared in the chat, and the ideas that you've shared here about your learning experiences and how we can make things memorable and effective for learners. And we'll take this away from here and keep on creating and keep on supporting however we can with the communities that we work with. So we'll just go back, if it's okay, Camila, to our last slide. I think it's really just our thank you slide. I have my contact details on there as well. If you would like to get in touch, we'd love to hear from you. I have a couple chats scheduled with some of you soon coming up anyway, which I'm really looking forward to. But please do feel free to get in touch, whether it's LinkedIn, WhatsApp, online, whatever, however you can reach us. We'd love to connect from here and to continue to support one another's work. And apart from this, I'm thinking about our friends and colleagues celebrating tomorrow. I want to say a very happy Eid Mubarak, which I know is happy Eid happy if we translate it, but wishing you a nice celebration tomorrow. For those celebrating and those not celebrating, wishing you just a nice Friday and a nice weekend ahead. And if there's nothing else, just again, thank you. Maybe Lorraine, Camila, Verdena, if you want to say any final words.
Verdena, you go first.
Thank you so much all for being here, for giving your time and your thoughts, and for the facilitation. This is a journey, and this is a journey in which we're all together, learning from each other, learning from teachers like Mr. Isam and the field, Saha. So please, let's keep this collaboration going, because honestly, that is the name of the game. And thank you, Lorraine, Camilla, and Kate for giving us this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. This is a really interesting session, and I'm so impressed with the digital toolkit. It's really it blows my mind how incredible it is. This is just an idea a few years ago, and I'm so proud of you to make it. You made it happen. So mabruk. And to everyone else, Eid Mubarak. I hope you have a really wonderful rest of the day. We have more sessions coming from the Migration Summit, one about poetry, writing poetry with migration stories. So stay tuned and see you all soon. Thank you for being here today. Bye, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Kaitlin, for the awesome facilitation.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Well done. Good job.
Cheers, Suha. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Super.